Craig, news of the day, Sazade De Rosario, first-team contract. Take us through the timeline of getting him to that deal.
Well, we nearly had it done last week, but obviously timeline was, just over a year, bringing him in and kind of continuation of teaching him how to be a pro day in, day out. He's learned those habits, he's adapted well, and reward to our staff that's done a great job teaching him, but also to him for putting the work in. The contract itself was pretty straightforward. It was, hey, this is another opportunity, another step, but let's make no mistake about it. You're going to play some first team minutes, but anything less than 20 goals for the Defiance is a failure this year. And so, there's still pressure on him to perform at multiple levels.
Well, he already has 8 in 5 games.
Yeah.
So, this season specifically, how have you seen him take a big jump and grow?
I think, physically he's adapted well to defenders in MLS, and he's able to hold the ball a little bit better. And that's really, kind of one of the things that was missing last year was that first touch, being able to hold it in pockets and then distribute. And we saw it a little bit at the end of the St. Louis game where a long ball was played in. He was able to hold it, play wide. And that part of his game, in addition to his movement in the box and his willingness to hunt crosses, is a nice opportunity for him.
What do you want to see next out of him? What else does he need to work on?
Well, strikers don't need to work on much if they hit the net. So continue hitting the net at every level. And, I know he would love to have the one against St. Louis back. We all would. But same time, it's really learning to be a pro every day, right? We train really, really hard in America in every sport. And so showing up every day is important. It translates into the way we play on Saturdays. And as he continues to do that and work on his physical presence as well as combination play, I think it translates well.
Greg, this organization so value the talent of the player, but also the individual. What can you say about him just as an individual, and also, having to fill his dad's shoes and those kind of things, because that takes a special type of person.
Yeah, and I'll let him expand a lot on who he is. I can interpret a little bit just from my chair. Humility is something he possesses. He came here. He didn't walk in the door saying, I'm the man. He walked in the door saying, what can I learn? And he's been really, really open-minded with our staff, with our performance staff, with our medical staff, with our coaching staff. And so you add it all up, I think when you show up humble, when you're young, it gives yourself an opportunity to grow a lot more than any other mindset. And so it's been nice to have him around. He fits in locker rooms. He's not a huge personality in a locker room, which is both good and maybe bad later in his career. But he scores enough goals, just like everyone. Your personality grows if you do it.
Going back to kind of Jackson, what he was asking, does he have that it factor inside the box?
We're going to find out. Look, you can only score in the games you're given a chance to score in, and that's what he's doing. You is also doing it at the Defiance level, and so there's a little bit of a trick. It's hard. It's like pulling teeth right now in terms of which guy gets that chance. We see them both. They're both doing well, but, we'll find out. Of course, everyone I sign, I'd love to say yes, but I know that it doesn't play out every single time. So, continued steady growth for him. He's very young, and so over the next year or 2 years, if he continues to improve the way he has over the last 14 months, he'll be a tough player to play against.
A bunch of MLS financial numbers came out for all teams this morning, to see what cap space is
awesome.
There. Yes. Do you like the fact that fans can see those numbers and everything you guys have available?
I think transparency is very important, and I think we love it in American sport, so I think it's great. I have no problem with it. I haven't seen it yet, so I hope it's accurate, because I think accuracy has been something that we'd like. In my position across the league, we'd like a lot more accuracy so that the conversations are a bit more above board and honest.
So, based on, maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not, but what do you think that you are able to do through this summer in terms of additions, and what do you want to add?
I've spoken about it. We hold a U22 roster spot. It's a matter of digesting spend versus potential versus performance versus contribution. along with the restrictions that the U20 rule is. And so I encourage anyone that's wondering, go ahead and do your homework. It's pretty restrictive in terms of the player's earnings versus what you can actually purchase a player for. And so play within the rules. That's one thing we do here in Seattle. And we'll see. But U22 spot we have, and then obviously when you have a roster as deep as ours, I want to keep everyone, but there's a lot of interest in a lot of our players.
Based on that depth, that's kind of the follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is obviously we talked months ago about, okay, well, the attack, right? Bringing in Ryan Kent and Osaze signing, is it still attack you'd want to add to, or is it other places?
Well, it certainly frees us up a little bit. One of the things, and I addressed it yesterday, is one of the things is when you go around the world and you're looking at players that can actually contribute in MLS in attacking phases and in our attack specifically, because I'm not worried about other people's attack. The player, we just heard from another player today in a German Bundesliga team, and they said, no, we're going to loan him to the second Bundesliga. We're not sending him to MLS. So, there's a lot of conversations we're in at a really high level. We're not interested in maybe throwing a dart. We're interested in a proven resume, and so we still possess that ability to get an attacking player. We're not shying away from it. We'll continue to pursue it, but we're also open-minded to, when you start looking a little deeper into the defensive positions, you can get more for your dollar.
Going back to the transparency of what teams spent, I think MLS, like you said, is starting to do that. How is that? Isn't that kind of a double-edged sword in terms of the fans and then your position? Because now they can say, hey, you're sitting on this or you don't have this. I mean,
it depends on, like I said, depends on how accurate it is. But I again, we've talked about it a little bit. I think part of sports is having an opinion. I think a big part of sports is having an opinion. I have an opinion a lot about the Kraken because I'm a huge hockey fan, but I don't have all the information. I understand that, but I still have an opinion, and it's strong. And I wouldn't think that Todd or anyone over there would shy away from allowing me to have it. So I encourage our fans to have opinions. I encourage them to approach me. I mean, I've given my email out to 1,000 fans, and it says, as long as you don't use a bad word, I'm going to respond. If you have a question, shoot it at me.
Switching gears here, not to catch you off guard or anything. I'm talking about movement in the summer. Have you got any calls about Obed Vargas?
Calls, emails, yeah. I mean, we get calls on a lot of players. We've had calls on over half our team, to be honest, whether or not we're willing to move them, and whether or not someone's actually willing to pay an appropriate price or trade an appropriate asset is something else. Fielding offers versus getting into real conversations, it's a different conversation. And I think, look, Obed's played his 100th game. He's attracting a lot of attention. But Obed and I have met several times and had really in-depth conversations about what he wants out of his career. And, what I'll easily say is he and I are on the exact same page in terms of what his progression looks like and where the next steps in his career are if they're to come. And so there's nothing hidden. I'm pretty open with you guys. I'm very open with the players on this team.
Well, I'll just ask it then. Has anything been appropriate, to use the word appropriate?
Not yet. No.
What could the Club World Cup do for not only him, but just around people around the world being able to see the talent on this team?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we drew a tough group. So if we're being honest with ourselves, it's probably not going to be 60%, 40% possession in our favor in these games, right? So there's going to be moments for each of our players to show well. There's going to be moments for each of our players to do the individual part of the game. But these games are going to require a very collective effort from us, a very organized effort in order to remain competitive and just to be a part of the game, if you will, to take it up to 30,000 feet. But each of these guys, I think, is committed to the team, and I think they understand when they perform in the team that individually they look a lot better. So I'm not sure we're gonna isolate any one guy and go, oh, if this player does X, everyone in the world's gonna see it. These games are interesting games. These games are exposure type games. These games are awesome to be a part of. But does one performance make that much of a difference? Maybe. I have my doubts.
going back to the, two of the finals teams, the Euro champions, are coming here.
Yeah.
Just, the fan base, and what does that do when you talk about exposure, and also what this does to your club, which is a big club, but those two are pretty big.
Oh, and by the way, Botafogo's no slouch, the
No
South
doubt.
American champions. So,
No doubt.
these are three unbelievable matchups for us. And to get to play them in non-exhibition, in games where there is a lot of money on the table to win, there is a lot of incentive for these players to win. And I think it's just a great opportunity. It's a great reward for our city. It's a great reward for the fans of soccer that have been isolated in the Northwest like myself for so long to get these games. It's amazing to do. For the next couple weeks, we have to try our hardest to keep our guys focused on MLS, right? But we're realistic. It's on the horizon, so we're trying to focusing on what we can right now.
Back to Obed, how do you philosophically, how do you balance wanting to keep the team as strong as possible for this season and go chasing MLS Cup versus maybe wanting to take advantage of a value spike? If he performs well in the Club World Cup and you're getting those calls, the numbers that you want to hear from.
Look, I am the general manager of the Sounders. I am not the CFO or the banker. I have a job. My job's to win. It's made very clear on every ownership call that I'm on that the job here is to win and raise trophies. So make no mistake, I'm interested in competitive teams and performance. And that's that's something that I've talked openly with Obed about. And he's a really mature young man, and we've had some great conversations. And he understands where I'm coming from. I understand where he's coming from, and we'll evaluate everything if things come up.